My father shoved me into a fountain while the crowd applauded at my sister's wedding. Minutes later, my billionaire husband arrived, and the room fell silent. It began with a splash, an embarrassing, very public splash. My own father pushed me into a fountain during my sister's wedding. Water streamed down my designer dress. Mascara streaked my cheeks. But instead of breaking down, I smiled, a small, private smile, because at that moment, none of them knew who I really was or whom I had married. The whispers, the laughter, the pointed glances, everything was about to stop. Growing up in the wealthy Grant family in Boston was always about maintaining appearances. Our 5-bedroom Beacon Hill colonial signaled success. But behind those polished doors, life was different. For as long as I could remember, I was compared to my sister Sophie. She was 3 years younger, but always the favorite. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" That phrase shaped my childhood, repeated endlessly by my parents, Charles and Victoria Grant. My father, a prominent corporate attorney, valued our image above everything else. My mother, a former beauty queen turned socialite, rarely missed a chance to remind me that I fell short. I'd bring home straight A's. Sophie earned straight A's plus extracurriculars. I'd win second place in a science competition. Sophie's dance recital overshadowed it. It never stopped. "Elena, stand up straight. No one respects poor posture," my mother would say when I was only 12. "Sophie has natural elegance," she'd add, hand on my sister's shoulder. "You'll need to work harder." On my 17th birthday, my father raised a glass. I waited, thinking he might acknowledge me. Instead, he announced Sophie's acceptance into an elite Yale summer program. My birthday cake sat untouched in the kitchen. College didn't bring change. I attended Boston University, balanced a part-time job, and maintained a 3.9 GPA. My parents rarely attended my events, but traveled across states for all of Sophie's performances at Juilliard. At my college graduation, my mother commented on my sensible major, criminal justice. "At least you're being realistic," she said. Meanwhile, Sophie's arts degree was celebrated as following her passion. These small but constant dismissals continued into adulthood. Family holidays felt like endurance tests. Every achievement I had was minimized. Every flaw was highlighted. During my second year at the FBI Academy in Quantico, something finally shifted. I created distance. I stopped sharing details of my life, declined family events, and built emotional boundaries. Ironically, my career soared. I found my place in counterintelligence, quickly rising through the ranks with strong analytical skills and steady determination. By 31, I was leading specialized operations my family knew nothing about. During one international case, I met Ethan Hayes, not in the field, but at a cybersecurity conference where I represented the Bureau. Ethan wasn't just another tech entrepreneur. He built Hayes Technologies from his college dorm into a global security giant worth billions. His systems protected governments and major corporations. Our connection was immediate and unexpected. He saw me clearly, without the distortions of my family's narrative. Our relationship grew quickly, squeezed between my classified missions and his global commitments. "I've never met anyone like you," Ethan told me on our third date as we walked along the harbor at midnight. "You're exceptional, Elena. I hope you know that." Those simple words meant more validation than I'd heard from my family in decades. We married 20 months later in a private ceremony with only 2 witnesses, my closest colleague, Lucas, and Ethan's sister, Hannah. Keeping our marriage private was partly for safety, but mainly because I wanted to protect this part of my life from my family's negativity. For 4 years, we built a life together, maintaining separate public identities. Ethan traveled constantly, and I eventually became the youngest deputy director of counterintelligence operations, which brings me to my sister's wedding. The invitation arrived 6 months ago, lavish, detailed, and self-important. Sophie was marrying Sebastian Wilde IV, heir to a banking empire. The event promised exactly the sort of extravagance my parents adored. Ethan was scheduled to be in Tokyo finalizing a major security contract. "I can reschedule," he offered when he saw my hesitation. "No," I insisted. "It's too important for Hayes Tech. I'll manage for one afternoon." "I'll try to make it back for the reception," he said, "even if it's just the end." So I drove alone to the Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel, nerves tightening with each mile. I hadn't seen most of my family in nearly 3 years. My black Audi, one of my few indulgences, pulled up to the valet. I checked my reflection. Emerald green dress, diamond studs from Ethan, hair in a classic updo. I looked calm and polished, even if I didn't feel that way inside. The ballroom was transformed into a floral showcase, white orchids and roses cascading from crystal chandeliers. Exactly my parents' style. I handed my invitation to the usher, who frowned slightly. "Miss Grant, you're seated at table 19. "Not the family table." I nodded. I expected as much. My cousin Charlotte spotted me and approached with a practiced smile. "Elena, what a surprise! We weren't sure you'd make it." Her gaze shifted to my empty side. "And you came alone?" "I did," I replied. "How bold," she said, feigning sympathy, "especially after what happened with that professor you were dating. What was his name?" A complete lie. I'd never dated a professor. But the Grant family excelled at creating stories that cast me as the perpetual disappointment. "You're mistaken," I said politely. Other relatives approached with their usual comments. Aunt Clara remarked on my practical haircut. Uncle Martin loudly asked if I was still pushing papers for the government and whether I planned on finding a career that paid enough to attract a decent husband. My cousin Tiffany, Sophie's maid of honor, arrived with air kisses that purposely missed my cheeks. "Elena, it's been forever. Love the dress. Is it from that discount retailer you were always so good at finding?" She didn't wait for an answer. She continued, "Sophie thought you might not come. You missed the bridal shower, the bachelorette trip, the rehearsal dinner." Each event conflicted with critical operations I couldn't reveal. I had sent generous gifts and sincere notes. "Work commitments," I said. "Right. Your mysterious government job," she added air quotes. "Bradford's cousin works at the State Department. He says those administrative roles can be exhausting." I simply smiled. Let them think I filed paperwork. The truth was not something I intended to share. Not yet. My mother appeared in a pale blue designer gown that probably cost more than a month of my substantial government salary. "Elena, you're here," she said, as if I'd traveled across continents. "Your sister was worried you wouldn't show up again." "I wouldn't miss her wedding," I replied. Her eyes scanned me for flaws. Finding none, she settled on, "That color doesn't suit you. You should have asked me before choosing something so bold." Before I could respond, the bridal party entered the reception. Sophie walked in, now Mrs. Wilde, looking elegant in a custom gown. My father looked at her with complete adoration, an expression I had never seen directed at me. The maitre d' led me to table 19, so far from the main family table I could hardly see it. I was seated with distant relatives who barely remembered me. "Are you one of the Wilde girls?" an elderly aunt asked. "No, I'm Charles and Victoria's daughter," I said, "Sophie's sister." She blinked in surprise. I didn't know there was another daughter. It stung more than I expected. Dinner unfolded with multiple courses. From my distance, I watched my family laugh at their central table, never once acknowledging me. Family photos had been taken earlier, without me. I had arrived on time, but the photographer said the schedule had been moved up. In the maid of honor speech, Tiffany spoke about growing up with Sophie, the sister I never had, completely ignoring my presence. The best man joked about Sebastian trading up by joining the Grant legacy and marrying the family's golden child. I stayed composed, taking small sips of water. I needed to stay sharp. Ethan texted an hour earlier. Landing soon. Heavy traffic. ETA 45 minutes. When the dancing started, I tried to join a group of cousins. But they subtly closed the circle, leaving me standing alone. I stepped away to a quiet corner, waiting for Ethan. My mother approached with champagne. "You could at least pretend to enjoy yourself," she whispered. "Your sulking is becoming noticeable." "I'm not sulking," I said. "I'm observing." "Well, observe with a smile. The Wellingtons are influential, and your sister made an excellent match. Don't embarrass us." She continued. "The least you could have done was bring a date. Everyone is asking why you're alone." I didn't explain that my husband's net worth surpassed the entire Wild family. They would learn soon enough. The reception was lively when my father tapped his glass for attention. The room quieted. He stood beside an elaborate ice sculpture. "Today," he began, "is the proudest day of my life. My beautiful daughter Sophie has made a match beyond a father's greatest hopes." He turned to Sebastian. "You're joining a family built on excellence and accomplishment." He raised his glass. "To Sophie, who has never disappointed us." My chest tightened, not because I expected mention, but because of what remained unsaid. As he continued praising Sophie, I slipped toward the terrace. I needed air before Ethan arrived. The setting sun lit the courtyard fountain. I was steps from the terrace when my father's voice echoed behind me. "Leaving already, Elena?" He stood 10 feet away, microphone still in hand. The entire reception turned to watch. My mother and Sophie flanked him, both wearing identical expressions of disapproval. "Just getting some air," I said calmly. "Running away?" he replied, the microphone amplifying his tone. Classic Elena, disappearing when family responsibilities are inconvenient. Heat rose to my face. "That's not true," I said softly. "You missed half the wedding events. You arrived alone, without even bringing a date." The room was silent. "I'm sorry if my presence caused offense," I said carefully. "She couldn't even find a date," my father announced. Nervous laughter followed. 33 years old, with no prospects? Meanwhile, your sister married one of Boston's most eligible bachelors." The laughter grew. "Dad," I said quietly, "this isn't appropriate." "It's exactly appropriate," he said, stepping toward me. "This is a celebration of achievement, something you know nothing about." His words struck sharp, targeted after years of similar jabs. I looked toward my mother and Sophie. Neither stepped in. My mother smiled tightly. Sophie looked satisfied. "You think we don't know why you're alone? Why you hide behind that so-called government job?" he continued. "You've always envied your sister. Always the disappointment. Always the failure." He was inches away now. The microphone lowered, but his voice carried. "Dad, please stop," I whispered. "Stop what? Stating the truth? That you've never measured up? That you're an embarrassment to the Grant name?" Something in me shifted. Not anger, but clarity. "You don't know who I am," I said quietly. "I know exactly who you are," he said. And then it happened. His hands landed on my shoulders, a sudden forceful shove that caught me completely off guard. I staggered backward, arms flailing, but there was nothing to hold on to. For a split second, I felt suspended, and then the shock of cold water hit as I fell into the courtyard fountain. Water closed around me. My carefully styled hair collapsed instantly. My silk dress ballooned out, then clung tightly to my body, and my makeup washed down my face in streaks. The physical impact wasn't nearly as painful as the realization that my own father had publicly embarrassed me at my sister's wedding. Reactions from the crowd came in waves. First startled gasps, then awkward murmurs, and eventually loud laughter and scattered applause. Someone whistled. Another joked, "Save it for the wet t-shirt contest after the garter toss." More laughter followed. I pushed myself upright, water dripping off my ruined dress. My heels slipped on the slick fountain floor as I tried to stand. Through wet strands of hair, I saw my father's triumphant expression, my mother hiding a smile behind her hand, and my sister's barely contained amusement. The photographer continued snapping photos, capturing my humiliation for future wedding albums. Another chapter in the ongoing "Elena disappoints again" narrative. But something shifted in that moment. As the cold water jolted my body, a realization hit just as strongly. I was done. Done seeking approval. Done tolerating disrespect. Done pretending to be someone smaller to make them comfortable. I stood up fully in the fountain, water pouring off my designer dress. I pushed my soaked hair back and looked directly at my father. "Remember this moment," I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent courtyard, steady, calm, and clear. His smile froze. Something in my tone must have registered, because I saw uncertainty flash across his face. "Remember how you treated me," I continued as I stepped carefully toward the edge. "Remember the choices you made. Remember what you did to your daughter, because I will." I climbed out of the fountain with as much dignity as possible. The laughter had vanished. Even my father seemed briefly speechless. A memory from high school flashed through my mind. My graduation, when he interrupted my valedictorian speech to announce loudly that memorization had always been my only talent. The crowd had laughed then too. I had shrunk inward. But not this time. I walked through the crowd, water dripping with each step, leaving a trail across the expensive carpet. No one approached me or offered assistance. No one spoke. Strangely, I felt fine with that. For the first time, I didn't need anything from them. The Fairmont's restroom was thankfully empty. When I stepped inside, the mirror reflected a drenched woman with mascara streaked across her skin and an emerald dress now darkened to deep green. Yet I didn't feel defeated. I felt unexpectedly free. My phone had been safe in the clutch I'd left at table 19. A distant cousin had guarded it for me. I thanked her, retrieved it, and returned to the restroom to text Ethan. "How close are you?" His response was immediate. 25 minutes out. Traffic is easing. Everything okay? I paused before typing back. Dad pushed me into the fountain. In front of everyone. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Then, "I'm coming. 10 minutes. Security team is already at the perimeter." I hadn't realized he'd sent his team ahead. That was typical Ethan, always planning ahead, always protective. and somehow to him, I mattered. The restroom door opened, and a young woman entered, one of Bradford's cousins, I thought. She stopped when she saw me. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, straightening. "Just a little wet." She hovered, unsure. "Everyone's talking about it. What your dad did was really awful." Her kindness almost broke my composure. "Thank you for saying that." "I have a spare dress in my car," she offered. "It might be a bit big, but—" "That's very kind," I said. "But I keep a change of clothes in my own car. Professional habit. Would you walk with me to the valet? I'd rather not cross the crowd alone." "Of course," she said. "I'm Emma, Bradford's step-cousin from his mom's second marriage. Basically the family outlier." "Elena," I replied, offering my dripping hand. "Grant family scapegoat. Nice to meet you." She laughed, and the small connection grounded me. Emma guided me through a side exit to the valet. I retrieved my backup outfit, a black sheath dress and flats I kept for emergencies. 10 minutes in a nearby restroom, and I'd shifted from drenched disaster to passably professional. While applying fresh makeup, I thought about my actual life, not the distorted version my family insisted on. I'd graduated top of my class at Quantico. I'd led operations that protected American lives. I'd earned the respect of experienced agents and high-level officials. I'd married a brilliant, kind man who valued me exactly as I was. None of that recognition came from the people celebrating inside the ballroom. Maybe that was the lesson. Maybe real worth isn't found inside the warped mirror of a toxic family. I checked my watch. Ethan would arrive any minute. For the first time, I felt ready to stop hiding our relationship, not to impress my family, but because I was tired of minimizing myself to keep their narrative intact. My phone vibrated. In position, I took a deep breath, smoothed my dress, and walked back toward the reception with my head up. Emma had returned to her table, but gave me an encouraging thumbs up. The celebration had resumed. The dance floor was full, the bar busy, the cake untouched. No one noticed my return at first, allowing me to position myself near the main entrance. I spotted my mother holding court with her friends, gesturing dramatically. As I approached, her voice carried. "She's always been difficult. We tried everything. Schools, therapists, some people just refuse to thrive." "Such a shame," one friend agreed. "Especially with Sophie doing so well. Same upbringing, same resources. Genetics are unpredictable." My mother sighed with practiced sadness. "Charles and I have accepted that Elena will never." She stopped when she saw me. "Elena," she said quickly, "you look dry." "Yes, Mother. I always keep a spare outfit. Another professional habit." Her friends greeted me awkwardly before finding urgent reasons to leave. "Was humiliating me planned?" I asked quietly. "Or did Dad improvise?" "Don't be dramatic," she whispered sharply. "You were sneaking off again. Your father simply lost patience with your antisocial behavior. Pushing your adult daughter into a fountain isn't a normal reaction to antisocial behavior. Perhaps if you had brought a date or made any effort to support your sister, instead of focusing on your mysterious job and demanding schedule, things would have gone differently." I studied her expression, searching for any sign of concern. There was none, only irritation that I'd disrupted her storyline. "You know what's interesting, Mother?" I said softly. "I've never made anything about me. I've spent years trying to take up less and less space, and it still wasn't enough." A commotion at the entrance drew everyone's attention. Several car doors closed in quick succession. 2 men in tailored suits entered, conducting a discreet security sweep. My mother frowned. "What's happening? Did the Wilds order extra security without telling us?" I checked my watch. Right on time, I murmured. A black Maybach arrived outside, followed by 2 additional security vehicles. Guests noticed now, conversations quieting. Even the music softened. My heart picked up, despite my calm exterior. After 4 years of marriage, Ethan still had that effect on me. And in about a minute, my family would finally meet my husband. The ballroom doors opened with purpose. 2 security officers, Lucas and Dmitri, stepped inside first. I recognized their focused expressions. Their expensive suits couldn't hide their military training. Whispers spread through the crowd. My father approached them, chest puffed out. "Excuse me," he said sharply. "This is a private event. If you're looking for the corporate conference, it's in the West Wing." Lucas looked straight through him, as if he weren't even there. Dmitri touched his earpiece and spoke calmly. "Perimeter secure. Proceeding." Then Ethan entered. My husband had always carried authority, but today he seemed to take command of the entire doorway. Standing 6 feet 2 inches, his shoulders were shaped by years of swimming. He wore a custom Tom Ford suit that quietly projected influence. His dark hair was slightly tousled. He had likely come directly from the rooftop helipad, and his sharp jawline seemed even more defined. But it was his eyes that always disarmed me. Clear, intense blue, scanning the room in seconds before settling on me. The moment he saw me, his serious expression softened into the small, private smile only I ever received. He moved through the crowd with the confidence of someone who never questioned his place anywhere. People naturally stepped aside, forming a clear path toward where I stood. I sensed my mother stiffen beside me as she realized this imposing man was coming straight toward us. Additional security personnel had entered behind him, positioning themselves discreetly around the room. "Elena," Ethan said when he reached me, his warm baritone cutting through the now quiet space. He took my hands, his thumbs brushing my knuckles in our familiar gesture. "Sorry I'm late." "You're right on time," I replied, steadier than I had felt all day. He leaned down to kiss me. Nothing for show, just our usual greeting. His hand rested lightly at my lower back as he turned toward my mother. Ethan's expression shifted subtly, just enough for me to recognize the warning. "Mr. Grant," he said, tone deceptively mild. "I'm Ethan Hayes, CEO of Hayes Technologies. Your daughter and I have been married nearly 4 years." My father's mouth opened and closed, speechless. Hayes Technologies was widely known, a global security firm valued in the billions. Even he would know the name. "That's not possible," he said weakly. "We would have known." "Would you?" Ethan asked, genuinely curious. "When have you shown interest in Elena's actual life? From what I've observed today, and from what she's told me, you focus on criticizing her, not understanding her." My sister appeared then, her wedding gown making her stand out among the stunned guests. Sebastian followed, looking conflicted. "What's going on?" Sophie demanded. "Who are these people?" "Apparently," my mother said faintly, "your sister has a husband." "That's absurd," Sophie said sharply. "She's making this up for attention on my wedding day." Ethan's arm tightened gently at my waist. Not in possession, but in support. "Mrs. Wilde, congratulations on your marriage," he said evenly. "I apologize for missing the ceremony. International business kept me in Tokyo until a few hours ago." His calm manners only emphasized Sophie's rudeness. She flushed, looking between Ethan, the security team, and the silent spectators. "This can't be real," my father insisted. You expect us to believe Elena secretly married a billionaire tech CEO? Someone in the back had apparently checked his phone. Holy, that's actually Ethan Hayes. Forbes cover last month. Net worth around $12 billion. Gasps spread across the room. My mother looked unsteady, reaching for a chair. I don't understand, she whispered. Why wouldn't you tell us? For the first time, her question felt sincere instead of accusatory. I almost pitied her. When have you ever wanted to hear about my achievements? I asked softly. When have you ever celebrated anything about me? She didn't respond. Ethan continued, I've been eager to meet the family Elena described so clearly. Though after seeing your behavior today, I must admit I'm disappointed. My father's expression darkened. Now listen here, young man. No, Mr. Grant, Ethan interrupted, his voice turning sharp. You listen. I saw you publicly embarrass your daughter. I watched you shove her into that fountain. I heard what you said. My father blanched. Under ordinary circumstances, Ethan went on, such an action would have immediate consequences. My security team was prepared to intervene, but Elena signaled them not to. That's the kind of person she is. Even after what you did, she chose not to escalate the situation on her sister's wedding day. Silence settled across the room, even the staff holding still. Fortunately for you, Ethan concluded, my wife has more restraint than I do, because if anyone ever treated her that way again, my reaction would be far less measured. The statement, though delivered calmly, hung heavy in the air. At that moment, the ballroom doors opened again. Two individuals in professional business attire stepped inside. I recognized their posture even before seeing their faces. Lucas and Sophia, my most trusted bureau team members. They approached with purpose, stopping at a respectful distance. Director Grant, Sophia said formally, using my official title. Apologies for the interruption, but we have a situation requiring your immediate attention. The word director seemed to echo before whispers broke out. Did she say Director Grant? Director of what? What department? My father frowned. Director of what? Some small government office? Ethan's smile turned precise. Your daughter is the youngest deputy director of counterintelligence operations in FBI history. Her work has saved countless American lives and earned her the highest level of security clearance. More gasps, more murmurs. My mother looked close to fainting. Sophie stepped forward, her confidence shaken. That can't be true, she said. Elena is just what? I asked quietly. Just your disappointing older sister? Just the family scapegoat? Just the failure you all decided I was? She had no reply. The Elena Grant I know, Ethan said, his voice carrying clearly through the quiet room, is intelligent, steady, and highly capable. She has earned the respect of experienced field agents and senior officials. Every day, she makes decisions that influence national security. He turned toward my father, adding, and despite everything, she still cared enough about your approval to attend this wedding, knowing exactly how you would treat her. My father looked as if he had aged a decade in minutes. The confident, outspoken attorney was gone, replaced by an older man struggling to match his long-held beliefs with the truth in front of him. Why didn't you tell us? He asked, his voice smaller than I had ever heard it. Would you have believed me? I answered calmly. Or would you have minimized it like everything else? His silence made the point for me. Lucas stepped forward, holding a secure tablet. Director, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need your authorization for this operation. I reviewed the data quickly and made a decision. Proceed with option 2, but increase surveillance on the secondary target. I'll call in for the full briefing in 25 minutes. Yes, ma'am, Lucas said, taking the tablet back. The exchange was brief, but the impact was immediate. This wasn't a performance. It was genuine responsibility. And I executed it with routine ease. Ethan checked his watch. We should go. The helicopter is ready, and Tokyo is waiting on the 9 p.m. video call. I nodded and turned to my family one last time. Congratulations on your wedding, Sophie. I hope you and Sebastian have a wonderful life together. My sister was still too stunned to speak. Sebastian stepped forward and shook Ethan's hand. It was an honor to meet you, Mr. Hayes, and you as well, Director Grant. I hope we can get to know each other better. His sincerity surprised me. My parents stood motionless, the foundation of their long-held assumptions collapsing around them. Mr. and Mrs. Grant, Ethan said politely, thank you for the invitation, and I apologize again for missing the ceremony. My father finally spoke. Elena, wait. We should talk. We're your parents. We've always wanted the best for you. We've always been proud. The attempt to rewrite history might once have worked, but not today. No, Dad, I said gently. You haven't. And that's okay. I no longer need your approval. Ethan and I walked out, our security team forming around us. Behind us, the room had erupted into full conversations. The Grant family dynamic had changed permanently, and so had I. The black helicopter waited on the Fairmont rooftop, its blades slowly spinning. As we approached, I felt oddly lighter, as though years of emotional weight had been left behind. Are you okay? Ethan asked over the growing rotor noise. Surprisingly, yes, better than okay. Before boarding, Sophia approached. Director, there's been a development. The ambassador needs you at the embassy right away. The surveillance feed detected unusual signals. I exchanged a look with Ethan. Real or staged? Real, she confirmed. Lucas already has the field team in motion. It's time sensitive. Reroute the helicopter to the embassy, I instructed. Notify the analyst team. I want a full briefing on arrival. Already done, Sophia said. Ethan squeezed my arm. Go. I'll meet you there. Navigating unexpected crises had always been part of our marriage. We adjusted, supported each other, and moved forward as a team. As Sophia and I turned toward the stairs, leading back through the hotel, our path was blocked. My mother stood there, breathless from climbing multiple flights. Her hair was falling out of place, and her makeup could no longer hide the strain. Elena, she said, voice unsteady, you can't leave like this. We need to talk. I glanced at Sophia, who stepped aside. I have a work emergency, I said. National security doesn't wait for family discussions. National security? She repeated slowly. You really are what they said. Deputy Director of Counterintelligence? For the past 4 years, I confirmed. Assistant Director before that. She struggled to connect this version of me with the image she had clung to. But why keep it private? Why not tell us? We would have been proud. Would you? I asked calmly. Or would you have questioned it, compared it to Sophie's accomplishments, suggested it came from connections and not merit? Her small flinch told me everything. And your marriage? She continued. 4 years? You never mentioned marrying someone like him, one of the wealthiest men in the country. I noticed her focus was on Ethan's wealth, not his character. Our relationship is private for several reasons, I explained. Ethan's role makes him a potential target. My work requires confidentiality. And honestly, I wanted an area of my life free from the family criticism. The pilot signaled. We were running out of time. I have to go, I said. There's a real situation unfolding. Will you come back? She asked quietly. To talk? To reconnect? The question caught me off guard. I studied her face. For once, I didn't see the controlled figure from my childhood. I saw someone confused and uncertain, realizing how much she had ignored. I don't know, I said truthfully. That depends on whether you want to know who I really am, not just the successful version that finally fits your expectations. She didn't respond. Think about it, I added gently. As I turned to leave, she spoke again. Your father won't say it, but he knows he was wrong today. What he did, there's no excuse. It wasn't a full apology, but it was more acknowledgement than I had ever received. Thank you for saying that, I replied. I have to go. As we boarded, I glanced back. My mother stood alone against the Boston skyline. Less imposing, more human. I felt an unexpected sense of compassion. The embassy situation was real but manageable. Encrypted communications suggested a possible breach, but my team contained it in under 2 hours. By 11 p.m., Ethan and I were finally home in our penthouse overlooking the Charles River. Some wedding, he said, loosening his tie. City lights reflected softly across the water. Not exactly how I planned to introduce you to them, I admitted. I think it went well, he said with a slight smile. Your father's expression, when Lucas said director, was unforgettable. I laughed quietly. Yes, that moment was satisfying. Your mother followed you to the roof, he observed. That means something. Maybe, I said, but patterns don't change in one afternoon. No, he agreed, but sometimes new information opens doors. He pulled me into his arms. Whatever you decide, I'll stand with you, whether it's reconciliation or distance. That's your choice. That was real love, steady, unconditional, and supportive. Did you see Bradford's reaction when he realized who you were? I said. I think he was already planning how to pitch his fund to you. Ethan laughed. He seemed decent, recognized your position immediately. I noticed that too, I said. Maybe Sophie made a better choice than I thought. My phone buzzed. I expected work, but it was Emma. OMG, everyone is panicking downstairs. Your dad keeps saying it must be a mistake. Your mom is silent. Sophie locked herself in the bridal suite. Also, your husband is ridiculously impressive. Also, sorry they treated you badly. Let's get drinks. Signed, your new favorite cousin. I showed Ethan. New favorite cousin? He teased. She was kind earlier, I said. Helped me after the fountain incident. Sometimes, support comes from unexpected places. More messages rolled in from distant relatives who had barely spoken to me before. Suddenly, birthdays were remembered, invitations extended, and requests for lunch appeared. My father sent a formal message asking for a discussion. I silenced my phone. Not tonight. They're not reaching out to me, I told Ethan. They're reaching out to the title and the marriage. Does that surprise you? He asked. No, but it makes things clearer. As I fell asleep, I realized something meaningful. I'd had a family all along. Ethan, my team, true friends, people who valued me without conditions. 4 weeks later, Ethan and I sat in our usual corner of Thinking Cup Cafe. Despite everything, we liked these calm, ordinary moments. Your mother called again yesterday, Ethan said. 3rd time this week. I nodded. The fall colors outside were vivid against the street. She left another voicemail, inviting us to Sunday dinner. Considering it? He asked. I'm unsure, I admitted. Part of me wants distance. Another part sees small signs of change. There were brief, sincere moments during our recent gatherings. My father asked thoughtful questions about a cybersecurity program Ethan's company implemented. My mother brought a box of old awards from my childhood, proof she had noticed more than she shared. Sophie asked to talk privately. In the garden where we grew up, she struggled with honesty. "I didn't know," she said, "about any of it." "You never asked," I reminded her softly. "I know," she said. "I think I liked being the favorite. It was easier not to question why. Bradford thinks I need to understand why your success felt threatening." Her openness surprised me. "I'd consider therapy," I said carefully. "Not now, but someday." It was a start. The next months were slow but steady. Weekly dinners became less tense. My parents respected boundaries. My father attended anger management. My mother and I started occasional outings, some strained, some warm. Progress wasn't perfect. Old behaviors resurfaced sometimes. But accountability existed, something previously missing. The biggest change was within me. I stopped basing my value on their reactions. I stopped hiding my achievements. I stopped accepting disrespect. A year after the wedding, Ethan and I hosted a gathering that included our colleagues, friends, and a handful of relatives who had shown genuine care. Looking around, I realized something important. Family is defined by support, respect, and consistency, not biology alone. Real family celebrates your successes without jealousy and stands with you during challenges. Sometimes they share your bloodline. Often, they don't. The real connection happens when you stop forcing relationships and nurture the ones. Trust and growth. In the kitchen, preparing dessert, Ethan wrapped his arms around me. "Happy?" he asked. I watched my father discussing fishing with Lucas, my mother chatting with Emma, and Sophie laughing with Bradford. Not perfect, still complicated, but genuine. "Yes," I said, "I am." If you've dealt with difficult family dynamics, I want you to remember this. Your worth is not determined by those who fail to recognize it. Boundaries are healthy, and sometimes distance is the first step toward healing. Have you experienced reconciliation after setting boundaries? Or have you created your own chosen family? Share your experience in the comments. Your story may help someone else today. If this resonated, please like and subscribe. And thank you for being part of this supportive community where we grow together.